Hey, welcome back to the Streamlined version of our Sunken City Achievement Hunter series, aimed at guiding you towards quick, efficient, and at times wacky ways to excavate all the gameplay achievements. Today, we're diving into the neutral achievements. Let's get into it.
This should be interesting.
For each achievement, we're sharing one standard and one wild deck. But since we want to introduce a variety of interesting options across a number of classes, and not just have most of them be rogue decks focused on Shadow Steps and Tenwu to knock these out, some of the decks featured here don't have the highest win rates, or might not be the most streamlined option out there. Still, each deck shown here has been tested to ensure you can get relatively swift progress across a number of games. Every one of our guides includes timestamps and deck codes for each achievement shown in the description or in the comments. And while you're down there, if you haven't already, go ahead and Merkwater subscribe so you can catch future videos as they come out. Alright, now let's ravage all these neutral achievements. Let's begin with a few of the one and done achievements. Since you can't control the cost of spells in your opponent's hand for this one, your best bet is to make sure you have really expensive spells in your hand and hope the Barbaric Sorceress hits one of the opponent's low-cost spells. Blizzard and Nourish still made the cut in these decks because their synergy was just too good to overlook, but feel free to swap them out or just make sure they're not in hand when you play Sorceress. Best of luck displaying Barbaric Sorceress's might and magic. There are two main options for ending your turn with a 7 attack or higher Vicious Slither Spear. Play a bunch of cheap spells with him out there, or buff him up a bunch. Both of the decks we're suggesting include recently nerfed cards, but Multi-Strike still costs 0 after questline completion alongside quite a few other cheap spells. And Drekthar is still okay at thinning the deck while buying time for the Garden's Grace to be discounted enough to buff Vicious Slither Spear to 7 attack, +5 from the effect, and +1 because it's a spell. Good luck getting in a swift 7-sided strike. So I was pretty sure this next achievement just required swapping 7 cards with Sir Finley Sea Guide, since we finished this on day 1 of the expansion. But the wording implies it has to be 7 cards that didn't start in your deck. Fortunately, Kazakhstan's treasures count, or even an accidental Bran into Sir Finley will work, since the cards that were in your hand go into the deck and come back right away. But this achievement is also a great excuse to play Academic Espionage once you've thinned your deck a ton, as you immediately get to play many of the one-cost cards. Have fun getting turned upside down and turned around with the insane value Finley draws for you. Blademaster Okani has been making the cut as a tech card in quite a few strong decks, so you may have completed this one already. If you haven't, you could try making the opponent's spells and minions cost more with cards like Lotheb and Boom Pistol Bully, but without Bran to give Okani both choices, it'll be pretty obvious what you're doing, and Shudderwalk doesn't count for this achievement. So your best bet is to stay alive and play a bunch of copies of Okani, even if you have to give him Taunt and Mark of the Spike Shell for additional copies. The Galakrond Rogue here hasn't changed since we completed this achievement before the expansion came out, but there are few things more terrifying to see than an opponent play an Okani turn after turn after turn. Enjoy. Queen Azshara has been very popular since she arrived, and since you can get a copy of her from Amalgam of the Deep, it's not tough to complete this achievement. You can even get extra treasures from Bolner and Shudderwalk as long as you've played 3 spells while they're in hand as well. There's really not much more to say about this one, except have fun tearing opponents apart with treasures now found by Queen Azshara. Now, we get to look at some of the achievements which will most likely take a few games to complete, starting with Shale University. School Teacher is another popular inclusion in quite a few decks, which can be discovered by Amalgam of the Deep. So as long as you don't keep choosing the same spells, this will be a simple one to finish as well. There are enough low-cost spells in Standard for Rogue that you could finish the entire achievement with this one deck if you want. And Conscious Call in Hunter isn't a bad way to tutor School Teacher from your deck, even if Teacher and the nerfed Dragonbane shot make the deck a little weaker. Good luck educating all those Nagalings. There are exactly 10 different minion types in Hearthstone at the moment, so Amalgam Aquarium requires that you discover one of each. Totem and Quillbore are probably the most likely to be overlooked. You're probably better off building a deck with Amalgam of the Deep and a bunch of the minion type or two you're missing, but both of the decks here have at least 2 minions of each type to serve as targets for Amalgam. Just note that Highlander cards such as Reno won't be active until you draw one of the Amalgams. Best of luck setting up your own Aquarium of Amalgams. There are currently just 3 Diver minions which all start as Dormant and then have Rush, so to get credit on Hold Your Breath, you'll have to be rather patient for these guys to recover from the bends. The standard deck here is based on Mark McKay's OTK to cast a couple Sunken Rituals discounted by Illuminate on Gangplank Diver and have them charge face with Mr. Smite. But we had to make a number of adjustments to the deck as it almost never survived against meta decks long enough to do the combo. It still has a low win rate, Druids and Warriors get out of range a little too easily, but this version feels much better. Though shuffling a few dozen slime scale divers into the deck with Togwaggle Scheme is a pretty nice way to get progress on this too. Good luck. If you didn't jump on the Drekthar train, there's a chance you haven't finished Shiny Hunting yet. If so, both of these decks are capable of triggering Treasure Guard's draw quite a few extra times per game while drawing you towards a shiny win condition, lots of Colossals or Cthulhu the Shattered. Have fun hunting down these treasures. In a deck like Quest Hunter, Baba Naga isn't difficult to activate, and this achievement counts damage from her Battlecry as well as regular attacks. So a card like Devouring Swarm will get immediate extra progress while potentially adding another copy of her to your hand. And Conscious Call helps pull her from the deck a bit more consistently. In Wild, Shaman's Quest alongside Zola, Spirit Echo, and Bog Slosher pushed this achievement to complete very quickly, even in a deck running relatively few spells to activate her. Best of luck doling out lots of damage for your own fishtail. Even though Smothering Starfish has made the cut in a couple meta decks, silencing 120 minions is a pretty tall order for a tech card. But this does count minions on your own side, and if you play a bunch per game thanks to Dire Frenzy, it's actually fairly quick to complete even if there aren't a ton of minions on board. But it's even faster to complete if every time you play Smothering Starfish, there are 13 other minions to silence thanks to Mad Summoner. And thanks to Shadowstep's discount, you can silence the same board multiple times for just 1 more mana each time you bounce it. So this achievement will be squelched super swiftly. Naval Mines are pretty fun to build around because taunts can't stop the face damage. Sketchy Information, Forsaken Lieutenant, and Snowfall Graveyard allow rogues to sweep through this very quickly. Or you could buff the Naval Mines to deal quite a bit of damage themselves with Magnetic Mechs. Dealing 40 or more damage in a single turn is entirely possible with a little help from Eni Stormcoil. enjoy giving your opponents nightmares about setting off your mines. To summon 75 mechs with motherships, you have to trigger its death rattle 38 times. Mothership is a staple in Mech Mage, but if you want to tear through this quickly, Forsaken Lieutenant and Snowfall Graveyard in Rogue can give you quite a few extra summons. Or a few extra copies from Simulacrum, Duplicate, and Molten Reflection can speed things along as well. Best of luck translating this achievement into your journal. The final group of achievements are ones that just require playing a lot with cards using this set's mechanics. If you want to top them off quickly, these decks can get you the last few points of progress you need. Tossing Tuskar Trawler into Murloc Warlock gives you a couple extra progress, and if you're desperate, you could toss in Excavation Specialist, but you shouldn't need to go that far. Harpoon Gun recently got buffed, and it gets to dredge each time you attack, so alongside Horde Pillager and Rummaging Kobold, you can get tons of progress per game. This deck is barely ever making use of these discounts, as we chose a secret package to thin the deck to find the Harpoon Gun faster, but it still had above a 60% win rate. Good luck secretly dredging Seashells by the Seafloor. I was honestly surprised to see that Under the Sea was one of the last achievements I completed. But then I realized that the Sunken Vessels dredged for the Gone Fishin' achievement are casts when drawn cards, so we don't technically play them. However, with the buffs to Harpoon Gun and Pet Collector, Big Beast Hunter is doing a lot better, and there's great motivation to play lots of Sunken Sabers. Yes, Sunken Sabers pulled from Pet Collector and other sabers don't count for this either, but with Dire Frenzy, you can still have plenty of Sunken Sabers to play out. A couple extra Sunken Mooncatchers per game is another nice way to venture under the sea. Best of luck. 300 Naga certainly seems like a lot, but Nagas have infiltrated most of the meta decks in one way or another, even if it's just Zola. But if you haven't finished this one yet, buffed up copies of Lady Steno or Coilscar Commander summoning extra copies of himself can be a fun way to tackle this one. Or you could just play Naga Mage. And hey, if you bundle Naga Mage with Open the Waygate in Wild, you can play nearly infinite Nagas per game as long as you can keep making space on board for more. Opponents tend to concede after the second or third full board, but it's worth a shot. Have fun summoning an overwhelming army of Azshara for this one. If you've hunted down the other achievements, you've almost certainly completed this one already. I mean, for the Gigafin achievement alone, check out the decks we recommend for that one in our last class guide. You'll destroy at least 75 enemies with Gigafin and his appendage. With Ambassador Phelan and Queen Azshara's Horn, even if you have a very limited collection, you'll be able to knock this one out over the course of the expansion. But if you're looking for a couple colossal centered decks to experiment with, here's a viewer deck that was a lot of fun alongside one of the greediest colossal decks you'll ever see. Leviathan is a nice target for one scheme, so you can keep cycling in games that go long. Have fun terrifying opponents with wave after wave of colossal minions. And that's a wrap. If you found this helpful, drop a like. By smothering that like button, you're letting YouTube know there's treasure to be found by other achievement hunters. We are planning to troll through the mini set and mystery achievements once those arrive, so be sure to check back or subscribe so that you don't have to set up a sentinel to keep searching for when the next video comes out. And as always, if you have any questions or suggestions, let me know in the comments. And if you enjoy participating in experiments live, check out our stream at twitch.tv/SSAlchemist. We currently stream on Sundays. And remember, you're awesome. Thank you for watching, and have an awesome day.
Beside